Hi everyone, we are chatting to Hilary Goldberg today, principal of Theodore Herzl Primary School, and we're going to be talking about the importance of play. So Hilary, can you tell us a little bit about your background in the education sphere?
Okay, so I studied education straight out of school, and then I was in education for about 6 years. After that, I went into corporate, which was really interesting.
Really?
I spent 14 years in education in corporate, and came back with a whole bag of skills that I think added to my classroom life. But my happy place and my joy has always been with children, so I was really lucky to be able to do that. So I've been at Theodore now, this is my 14th year.
Wow. Okay.
And my 3rd year in the hot seat.
Oh, is it? And you've done such a beautiful job at it. It's amazing. So today when I was walking through the school, it's always so nice to come to Theodore because you always see kids playing and laughing and having fun. And I think it's just testament to the way you're leading the school and the direction you're taking it in. And I was walking through and it was just wonderful to observe all of this free play. Mm-hmm. And so it really is a school where free play is encouraged. Am I correct?
Yes. It's very important. You know, when you arrive at school in the morning and you see our children doing things like playing foursquare, whether they're swinging, they might be on the jungle gym, and they're interacting with each other, and it's their own time, it's their own space, and it's all part of growth and development, you know, for our children.
Oh, that's amazing.
Very important time.
So, Hilary, we are in what experts are calling a global adolescent mental health crisis, and I've been a big fan of Professor John Hyatt, who is doing a lot of research around why is Generation Z so much more depressed, so much more anxious than previous generations, and yeah, I think you've been an educator for many years, and you've obviously seen kids grow up and generations pass through. What changes have you seen in the generations during the time that you've been an educator?
Well, I think that, you know, we all thought that everything was happening since COVID. But when you look at John's analysis of what's been happening in the world over time, I look at the age group that my children are in, 25, 23, and those a little bit younger as well. And there's definitely been an impact. I think the pressure on our children, as well as the introduction of screens and alienation of connection, has definitely been something. And in our children at the moment, we're seeing that they don't play as easily. So they're not interacting naturally. And I think that this lack of connection or the loss of connection has certainly been something that's impacted our children and still is impacting our children currently because of screens.
That's so interesting that you say that they're finding it harder to play, because I've even seen that in my own kids, that you have to encourage them, go and play. And the amount of times I say to my kids, go and play, I'm like a broken record. And I just wonder if it is, you know, what John Hyatt says is that he's the author of The Anxious Generation. And he says that he believes the decline of free play and the isolation of screens has contributed to that problem. What is your take on that?
I definitely agree with that completely. I really do. I think the fact that children often feel on their own, you know, all on their own, they feel that they need to be more subconscious even of their physical selves, because it's a very judgmental, the screen world is a very judgmental world, and in a second you can have a like or you can have somebody that doesn't like your post or your photograph or whatever's, you know, on the various platforms. And I think that it's quite demoralizing for children in a very quick and a very direct way, and I think it just ruins children's confidence.
Yeah, I also think so. I spoke to a cyber psychologist a while ago, and she said to me, it's going to be very interesting to see the impact that growing up in front of yourself is going to have on children, because for the first time ever, you've got a mirror that's constantly mirroring your development, your every move, your violin, your mom takes a video, your you know, if you're climbing on the jungle gym, there's a screen present documenting that. And then later on, maybe when you're 10 years old, you've got your own phone where you are making a TikTok video, and you are literally growing up with a mirror constantly present. And what is that? What is the impact of that on identity? And I think that also leads into what John is saying, that this situation has a huge impact on their identity and their confidence. And it's interesting, at what age would you say you are noticing, the self-consciousness happening?
I would say even around about 8 years of age.
Wow.
I think that the children are losing the ability to just be, because there's always somebody noting or capturing what's going on in their lives, and there's always a playback. So the playback is that mirror that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whether it's mom showing granny or, it's lovely to capture memories and create memories, but unfortunately it does mirror back. When I see, I was recently in Joburg and sitting in a restaurant, and I saw a child, must have been 18 months old, playing on mom's phone. And I just want to cry when I see this, because it just is robbing children of their childhood and the ability to be who they are.
Yes, and that actually leads me into my next question. What is it that a child gains from free play, from just being free of a screen, from just being a child and playing?
I think they learn while they're playing, they're learning so many skills. I've always said, it's always been a bit of a joke that you learn the beginning of business in the sandpit, because you're looking at negotiation, you're looking at sharing, you're looking at planning. Even in terms of your interaction with others within a confined space, you're learning your body space in terms of others. And I think that by losing free play, being in such perhaps an organized world or a prescriptive world, we're losing the ability for children to, at an early age, think on their feet, make their own decisions, and actually their emotional growth, let alone their physical growth, in the physical interaction with touching, feeling different textures, building different things. And I think that we're really losing a lot by not having all the motor development, the fine motor, the gross motor, all there all of the time.
And what about social aspects? I think there's a lot of fights that break out on the school ground, and I think our children, sometimes we're very careful to shield them from these obstacles and to sort of help them overcome social difficulties and so on. And what is your take on that? What do kids learn or gain from a conflict, or what do they lose from conflict?
I think it's I think conflict is not necessarily a bad thing, because I see it as a wonderful opportunity for teaching.
Yes.
So what we do here, we try restorative discipline, and we will bring the children in. We will discuss with them what's happened, how they could have handled it better. And in the older grades, we do something called a self-reflection sheet, where it's analysing what's happened, what could have been done better, to almost embed that feeling of the ability to make a decision, and what decision could you have made better.
Yes.
But something I have experienced, and this is where I'm not a fan of online games at all. We had a situation 2 years ago where a young child was pushed off a jungle gym. Luckily, he didn't get hurt, but the words used by the other child were exactly from Roadblocks.
Oh, really?
They were 8.5 years old, and it created a very, very difficult situation. And that's where I see that sometimes the conflict that ends up moving into our school environment is the conflict seen through aggressive behavior on online games.
Absolutely. So that is so interesting, because one of the findings now in this latest study that Sapien Labs did in 2023 is that there is very much a detachment from reality as a result of online gaming, especially in boys.
Yes.
So what we are seeing in 18 to 24-year-olds is that they feel very detached from the real world. They feel quite detached from the real world. And so in a child, in an 8-year-old, when you sort of starting to starting to figure out what is real and what is not, but you don't have that narrowed down yet. So now you are trying essentially what you're seeing on an online game. You're trying on the playground because it's what's being modeled to you and what's being fed to you. And that dividing line between what is real and what is not as black and white to them. Am I correct in saying that?
It's absolutely. And as I say, that it ended up in a big difficulty, and they don't realize the impact of their actions online. The consequences of their actions are not there. In real life, there are consequences. Somebody will get hurt, and they actually do get hurt. If you hurt, if you're doing something physical that's too hard on them, and that. So that's, to me, the big thing is there's no realization of what you do has has this big impact on others, because there's that disconnect.
So interesting as well, because I read this book about play, and it's actually titled Play, and there's an entire chapter that is dedicated to the idea of, is an online game actually a game? Is it a game? Because in all other games, when someone gets injured, think of a soccer match. If someone gets injured, the game stops.
Absolutely.
And so is online gaming play?
No, I don't think it is at all. I think it's a substitute for sometimes parents having to be with their children. Yeah.
Sadly so. Yes.
Earlier on you say to your children, go outside and play, go outside and play. And this is something that this friend of mine from England also commented on. She said, sometimes our children don't know how to go outside and play. We need to be the role models in that. So as I say, roll on the grass with them. Take the dining room furniture and create a fort. Maybe we just need to be a bit more playful intentional ourselves. To be more playful ourselves, to actually be those role models. And it only takes a few minutes to sow the seed.
And so you're actually touching on that disconnect that's happening in families as a result of technology, the disconnect that kids are feeling. So tell me, Hilary, what do you think this so back in the 80s, we had this play-based childhood, and kids were gaining social skills, they were gaining physical strength and all the things that they need to go to become successful adults. And so we've moved on to this screen-based childhood. What are kids losing as a result of being on screens? What are they losing?
They're losing even perceptual skills of the world around them, and right from when they're young. The difference between a child reaching out and touching something or seeing it on a screen, there's no depth.
So sensory.
There's no depth. It's sensory. It's everything that's around them. It's physical. It's emotional. It's all their senses. It's even by comparison, if you look at a child swinging, you look at it stimulating their vestibular system, which is our sixth sense, which we need in order to grow and learn. So there's so much that our children are missing out on. I just want to beg every parent and every person who has a phone in their hand, put the computer away, put the cell phone down, and just play. That would be my challenge to every parent that ends up seeing this interview or this podcast, and just say, go and play. You'll actually have fun yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, so now I would like to know, so our kids are so scheduled. I mean, I look at my own kids. I printed out their schedules in January, and I looked at the schedule because I make them a little summary so they know what to pack for the day. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, there is no way that me as an 8-year-old would have been able to handle this. It's so much. It's ukulele lessons, and it is hockey, and it's extra this and extra that, and they are so scheduled. They barely ever have any time to do anything that's free and just being a child. So tell me, at Theodore Herzl, how do you guys prioritize free play?
So if you look at the mornings, there's always something happening, and we find a lot of children love to come to school early because there's free play. If there are 5 kids playing soccer together, boys, girls, everybody involved, maybe it's 4 square. It's not free play without a structure in terms of that their choices, they are to do. But they come to school to be together. They might be playing cards. They might be playing, it might be Uno or something like that, but they have time.
Yes.
Something that there's always free play going on often when I go into the grade 2 classroom. Something that the teachers in grade 3 have brought in is called golden hour. So they actually have an hour of scheduled free play within the classroom on a Friday.
What, really?
Yes.
So this is exactly what is being recommended. What is being recommended is that free play should be an extracurricular. It should there should be time set aside where your child is not engaged in a hockey match, is not engaged in anything, and they can just roam and be free and develop problem-solving skills and critical thinking skills and so on.
And it's small group play that's important. So with 4 or 5 kids, together, as I say, it's back to the sandpit. And you don't have to be young to be playing in the sandpit. It's negotiation, it's communication. So in terms of, obviously we've got a full sports schedule in the afternoons and that as well. But it's important for children. We've extended our break. Our break times have gone from 20 minutes to a half an hour on each of those break times, so that's added in a bit, which allows the children more time to play together. Our critical thinking times are often times that end up being sort of play times as such.
And you were saying you guys do critical thinking as it's a subject, or
we could call it a subject. It's part of our weekly program.
That's incredible.
Every grade does critical thinking once a week. We try as best possible for it to be physical critical thinking. Okay. So then it's children negotiating, organizing, planning, all those skills for life. Really, it's something that we've looked at.
And do you think that play is something that adults should do? Is it good for our mental health? Should we be playing too?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a fantastic idea. It may, sometimes maybe it's a board game. We talk about creating moments in life, and it's about creating, there's an opportunity for play as well, but I think it's about joy.
Yeah.
And maybe joy can be created also through play.
Yeah.
It's about finding joyful moments, enjoying doing something, whether it's for those of like me being a bit older, going for a walk along the beach, frolicking in the waves, things like that. So
maybe following the cupcake recipe and trying something new.
Absolutely.
That's play, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Play could be in that. It's totally creative.
And so good for mental health.
And things. Oh, it's wonderful.
Yes.
People just need to be able to be without a screen in front of them. Because then your mind can roam and the opportunities are just amazing. If you just be and connect with nature as well.
Okay, so that's something interesting that you're bringing up now. So just being and being present is we're almost moving into a direction of mindfulness. Now, in the fourth industrial revolution, there's definitely a push towards teaching kids to be more mindful. So in other words, what do our screens take away from us? It's taking away your senses, it's taking away sensory play, touch, feel. Yes. And so do you believe that engaging with your senses and being present is something that we have to instill in our kids?
Absolutely. So I know some kids don't even want to take their shoes off. But I think they think I'm half mad. Because often when I'm with them, I'll say, right, let's go outside, let's take our shoes off and let's do some breathing. We need to be grounded with the earth. We can lie on the floor, we can look at the clouds, listen to things around you. And it's just about taking that time just to take a moment without this constant stimulation.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I spoke to a mother a while ago whose son really battles with gaming addiction. So he's a teenager already. And she said one thing that she knows. So for her younger son, she's got a big age gap. And for her younger son, she actually banned games out of the house because she had such a bad experience with her first son. And she says the first thing that she noticed in her younger sons is how dirty their feet are. She says her older son, his feet was never dirty. And she said the first thing that she would say to parents is, make sure your kids' feet are dirty. Absolutely. At the end of the day.
Mud, grass, it's a wonderful thing to learn with. And I think that, you know, when people have these pristine homes and everything is beautiful and wonderful, then you don't want the kids to put mud on the cream furniture.
Yes.
And unfortunately that stifles
Yes,
growth as well. You can have a smart lounge and keep it, but just keep them playing, keep them outside, keep them physically active, and just take those screens away for everything, for physical development, for language development, and for emotional development. Really and truly, we're lucky. We live in South Africa. We've got space. We don't have to be cooped into things. We've got space. We can live and we can be.
So being in South Africa brings me to my next question. I think we are in South Africa and we've got a lot of freedom, and we've got this beautiful climate where our kids can play outside and so on. But I have found that a lot of parents work full time. You know, they work every afternoon, the whole afternoon, and the child is alone at home. And that is often when we see children spending too much time online, or spending too much time on TikTok or on an online game, because there's no one there regulating this. Maybe the child's staying with an au pair or with a nanny. And obviously with our high crime rates, a child can't just take a bicycle and go and ride it in the streets. And I often wonder whether the reason why we've got such high screen time in South Africa, you know, in comparison to the Scandinavian countries or in comparison to Europe, why is our screen time 10 hours a day, where Australia is 7 hours a day and Scandinavia is 4 hours a day?
Yes.
You know, why are we so high? And I wonder if it's crime related, you know, like when kids go home, they're between four walls, and, you know, it's, you can't get out. You can't get out of the house.
No, I hear that, and that could very well be the reason. But there's so many apps that parents can put on their phones to regulate their children's screen time.
Yes.
So that they know when they've gone over their time, and they might be protecting their children from the strangers outside. But sometimes there's a stranger online as well that they need to protect them from. Yes. And the more time they spend online, the more likely they are to interact with people that they don't know.
Yes, so I was just speaking to the grade 8s about this, and we were actually just handling, you know, dodgy people on the internet, like stranger danger and all of this, and going through, you know, coping skills, how to spot a catfish and that type of thing. But, you know, another thing that John Hyatt has said is that we underprotected kids online and overprotected them in the real world. And that is why we're sitting with the anxious generation. What is your take on that?
Oh, so I know children, I mean, even when my children were growing up, and they, as I say, 23 and 25, when we used to still sit outside and watch them ride their bicycles. We're lucky we live in a cul-de-sac, so we used to sit outside on the grass and watch them ride their bicycles. But also, even if you've got a small garden, you can be outside. I do think that we've made our children super afraid of the outside world, because we thought we were doing the right thing. Nobody thought that that this was going to be the impact.
Yet the kidnapper or the online predator could be in their pocket or on their game or whatever.
Absolutely, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to balance. But I think that every opportunity that a parent has to be outside with their child, they must take that. I mean, to sit on Sardinia Bay until 6:30 on a Sunday evening in summertime is actually possible.
Yes, yeah.
I think that everybody has to make the effort. We've all become very tired. And after COVID, the way we live in our world has changed. I believe we were able to do more beforehand. We were able to fit in more beforehand. So we just need to remind ourselves that every 5 minutes outside or connecting with our children without screens will build their confidence, will allow them that we'll be modeling and they'll be modeling interaction, and therefore we're growing a more confident child, which may be the child that is able to say no in grade 8 on an online interaction where they feel that this is there are a few warning bells there.
So in
so
primary
much we
school,
can do.
In primary school, you're saying that in primary school we're actually laying those foundations by forming those trust relationships, those that bond with your child, spending time with them, being present. You're actually laying a foundation for an easier adolescence.
Absolutely. Do you know what they say? The foundations that you put in place at 2 are the foundations you have when children are 13.
Wow.
And I heard that before I had my kids.
And has that been your experience?
Yes, I must say. Yes. I was more structured, and I'm not talking about determining time. I was more structured in my way. I think with my first child than my second child.
Okay.
And I do think that we've seen, there are benefits. Every child is different though.
Yes, absolutely.
But there are benefits to structure and coordinating, and interaction time is just so important.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that we pride ourselves with here at theatre. We're lucky we've got smaller classes, so for the teacher to connect with the child, so that the child can bring the teacher a concern or a problem.
Oh, that's so good.
Very important.
Fantastic.
So we can pick these things up before they explode.
That's very, very important. So just when I'm going to almost get to the end of this, but whenever we have guests and we do an interview, we ask the previous guest to leave a question for the next guest. So your question was actually left by Professor Kerry Lynn Thompson from MNMU, who we interviewed last year. And she actually left you a question. So here it is. It says, how do you think AI is going to affect our family dynamics and social skills?
When I was actually reading something over the weekend about AI and the fact that they should limit the age to 13, which I thought was a jolly good idea. I think in terms of skills for a parent, if I look at what AI can do for me as an adult, I think AI is awesome. So for parents, it can certainly reduce the amount of time you can work smart instead of long.
Yes.
So I think that's something that's a positive about it. I do think we need to protect our children. We need to protect our children from it, and we need to carefully guide them in that world. But I think that when we say family dynamics, if you can work smarter with AI as a parent, maybe it can allow you more time with your children, which would be my first choice. And then social skills. I worry again about the breakdown of social skills generally with the online world. So I don't think that AI should be looked at as an opportunity for our children to grow social skills. I think we should hold them back. You know, they say wait till 8, it's wait till grade 8. Yes. I think that's the way we should go.
That should be applied to AI as well.
AI should be the parent's treat.
Okay. Love that. And then what question would you like to leave for our next guest?
Okay, so we don't know who it's going to be. So
we have no idea.
Okay, well, hopefully they're a parent. And I'd love to say to them, what measures can you as an individual put into place within your home and with your family to increase family connection time?
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic.
I'd like to ask everybody out there.
That's a great question.
Because we can all do something.
To improve that, yes.
Yeah. Just a little bit. You know, Atomic Habits,
James
Clear. Every little bit, every incremental step helps.
I love that. And tell me, Hilary, if you could whisper in the ear of every parent in the world, and you could whisper one thing in every parent's ear, what would that one sentence be that you would whisper?
Don't let your child touch a phone. I'd probably shout it, I wouldn't whisper. Don't let your child touch a phone before they're 13, even in the trolley, while you're shopping. If they look around and they see all these things that are on the shelves, they'll see colors, they'll see textures, and you can have a conversation around it. Just keep that phone away from your child, because your child will grow to be a more confident, a more skilled human being, and a better citizen at the end of the day. And I would like to just protect your child, whoever they may be.
That is so powerful. I love that. That's awesome. I wish we could whisper that. Again, it's been a pleasure learning from you. Thank you so much for having us. You know, I always feel like what makes me sad these days, and I actually said this to my husband the other day, is I feel like we are the first generation of parents that need to be custodians of childhood. I mean, where before have parents had to fight for the kids to play? Just to play. I mean, play should be a given as a child. So I think as parents, we are exhausted by being custodians of childhood. And so we really appreciate people like you who are change makers, who stand up for the rights of our kids, who want the best for our kids, despite an enormous onslaught of change. You're still being a custodian of childhood, and we appreciate that. As from my generation to yours, I say thank you for that.
No, it's a pleasure. And Esty, it's wonderful working with you, what you've done with our children, interacting with them and teaching them so much at Theodore over the last few years. It's been an absolute honor. It really is. You're an icon in what you're doing. And somebody asked me the other day, what qualifies you? I said, she's just the most amazing mom. And that's what you're doing as well. You are being a custodian of all the children that you interact with in every single workshop that you do. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.